Hello, everybody, and welcome back to assignment number 2 for Raisin in the Sun. This is part B of assignment number 2. I will be reading right now, so make sure you are answering all the questions from assignment number 2. By the time I'm finished, have them all done. Now, we learned a lot in the beginning of part A of assignment number 2. We learned how much the money was for. It was for $10,000 at that time, and we extrapolated by using Google's money, whatever, that it would be worth about $150,000 today, which I'm sure we all agree is a ton of money to be showing up at your doorstep in the form of a check this Saturday morning. We also learned where the money was coming from. It turns out that it actually, they kept saying, Ruth and Benny kept saying to Walter, but that's Mama's money. That's Mama's money. And they are absolutely correct, because it is the life insurance for the father, Mama's husband, Big Walter. Now, Walter said at one point, but he was my father too. Sure. And he was Ruth's father-in-law and Benny's father and Travis's grandfather. But the money, the insurance money, clearly goes to Mama, right? She's in charge of the family. She was the wife. So that money goes to her. Now it is for her to decide what to do with that $10,000. Now, we know what Walter wants to do with it, of course. It's to invest in that liquor store. We know that Ruth doesn't want it to happen, although she did argue for her husband's case, but I think it's more because she's worried about Walter's psyche, the fact that his dreams are being deferred and it's crushing him. And now she's worried that if Mama does what everybody else is, this society has been doing to him, that it might be too much for him. It might be the last straw for him, and she's worried about him. We also know that Benny doesn't want him to do that at all. She thinks he's not smart enough to handle that money, certainly not to run a business, and certainly not with his two friends, Willie Harris and Bobo, who have no business experience whatsoever. So now we're going to find out what Mama wants to do with that money. So let's pick it up. In fact, where we left off exactly was Ruth was being very nice and said, why don't you take a trip to Europe with that money? And Mama said, and this will be at the top of page number 47 on the online version, shoot, these here rich women do it all the time. This is Ruth saying, I'm sorry, they don't think nothing of packing up their suitcases and piling on one of them big steep zips and swoosh, they gone, child. Mama, something always told me I wasn't no rich white woman. Ruth, well, what are you going to do with it then? Mama, I ain't rightly decided. Thinking. She speaks now with emphasis. The fact that she thinks about it for a second and speaks with emphasis tells me she has decided. And now let's hear what at least part of her decision is. Some of it got to be put away for Benita and her school, and ain't nothing going to touch that part of it. Nothing. So Mama has her heart set, and she's absolutely right on to do this, to put away a chunk of that $10,000 to pay for Benita's medical school. I'll tell you now that if you're looking to go to medical school today, would $150,000 even be enough to pay for medical school? It depends on which school you went to. You would probably have to pay even more than that. So it's a ton of money to go to medical school now. Up until now, we know that Mama, Walter, and Ruth have been paying for Benita's school in the form of a little bit of their work money. Their paycheck goes to Benita's school. And remember, Walter has been holding that over Benita's head and pointing it out all the time. Don't you forget that I'm paying for you, which of course he shouldn't do, but he can't stop himself because he sees her getting her dreams and he's not getting his. Ain't nothing going to touch that part of it. Nothing. She waits several seconds trying to make up her mind about something and looks at Ruth a little tentatively before going on. Been thinking that maybe we could meet the notes on a little old 2-story somewhere with a yard where Travis could play in the summertime. If we use part of the insurance for a down payment and everybody kind of pitch in, I can maybe take on a little day work again, a few days a week. So Mama, her plan for the rest of the money, put a little bit in the school for Benita, but the rest she wants to put down money on a house, a little old 2-story somewhere. So a small 2-story family house, a family home that they could own. Now think about, we're going to find out in a little while, that's something that Mama has always dreamed of. Let's continue. Ruth, studying her mother-in-law furtively and concentrating on her ironing, anxious to encourage without seeming to. Think about what that means. Studying her mother furtively and concentrating. Furtively means without letting her know. So she's staring at Mama. And why is she doing that? Because she wants to see, is Mama really serious about this? Because I think Ruth really, really wants that house. Remember where she lives. She sleeps in a bedroom that isn't a bedroom with her husband. In reality, It's just the old breakfast nook. So it's a little corner of the dining room that they probably hung a sheet up over it, or like, like a portiere, something like, those, like a curtain to put how much privacy do you really get behind a curtain? The answer would be very little, if any. And also think about where her son sleeps. He sleeps on the couch in that living room next to her. And also remember, they don't even have their own bathroom. So she's anxious to encourage without seeming to. What that means is she really wants Mama to buy this house, but she doesn't want to push her. Well, Lord knows we put enough rent into this here rat trap to pay for 4 houses by now. Mama looking up at the words rat trap and then looking around and leaning back and sighing in a suddenly reflective mode. So now Mama is going to start going back and thinking, reflecting about this apartment. Remember, she's raised her family in this apartment. Also, don't forget, the money that she's getting comes from the insurance money from her dead husband. Her husband was a big part of this apartment and her life. So anytime she thinks about this money, she's going to be thinking about Big Walter. Rat trap, yes, that's all it is. Smiling. I remember just as well the day me and Big Walter moved in here. Hadn't been married but 2 weeks and wasn't planning on living here no more than a year. She shakes her head at the dissolved dream. Did you hear that, everybody? Their dream was to live in this apartment for only 1 year and then move into a home. And then notice, the dream was dissolved. In other words, their dream was deferred as well, just like what's happening to Walter. So Mama knows all about having to defer your dreams. And now look, she has a chance to realize her dream of getting a home. Here's the problem now. Who's not going to like that dream? Ironically, it's going to be Walter, even though he would get to live in the new home and not have to live in this rat trap apartment, to quote them. He still wants his dream of owning that business. We was going to set away little by little, don't you know? And buy a little old place out in Morgan Park. We'd even picked out the house. Chuckling a little. Looks right dumpy today. But Lord, child, you should know all the dreams I had about buying that house and fixing it up and making me a little garden in the back. She waits and stops smiling. And none of it happen. So again, look at what she said. You should know about all the dreams I had about buying that house and fixing it up and making me a little garden in the back. Remember Mama with her plants? She wants that garden. And none of it happen. Dropping her hands in a futile gesture. Ruth keeps her head down, ironing. Yes, life can be a barrel of disappointment sometimes. Mama, honey, Big Walter would come in here some nights back then and slump down on that couch there and just look at the rug. And look at me and look at the rug and then back at me. And I'd know he was down then, really down. After a second, very long and thoughtful pause, she's seeing back to times that only she can see. And then, Lord, when I lost that baby, little Claude, I almost thought I was going to lose Big Walter too. Oh, that man grieved himself. He was one man to love his children. OMG, did you just hear that terrible news? They had another baby and he died. His name was Claude. Think about what that does to somebody, to a parent, to lose their baby. Now, I'm supposing this, but the fact that they named the baby, I don't believe that they lost the baby on purpose. In other words, I don't think they had an abortion or aborted the child because they named it. I don't think anybody would ever name a child that they would abort, right? So think about what that means, that they lost a baby. Now, why also did they lose that baby? Could it have had something to do with their poverty, with the situation that they're living in, with this apartment itself? She doesn't specifically say so, but we don't know. Now, can babies die? Unfortunately, yes. There's actually something that you can look up. It's called SIDS. It's called Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. And it's a really terrible thing that doctors still don't understand, where sometimes little babies die, oftentimes in their sleep. Parents come in and find their infants dead in the morning. It's a really, 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 really terrible thing. And I'm sorry to even have to talk about it, but we just learned that this affected Walter big time. Listen, I almost thought I was going to lose Big Walter too. Oh, and that man grieved himself. He was one man to love his children. So again, what is the most important thing to to Mama? It's all about family. Ruth, ain't nothing can tear at you like losing your baby. Mama, I guess that's how come that man finally worked himself to death like he done. Like he was fighting his own war here with this world that took his baby from him. He sure was a fine man, all right. I always liked Mr. Younger. Crazy about his children. God knows there was plenty. All right, this is an interesting little thing right now. Let's listen about Walter. This is coming straight from Mama. So she says, crazy about his children. God knows there was plenty wrong with Walter Younger. hard-headed, mean, kind of wild with women. Plenty wrong with him. But he sure loved his children. So what does that mean? Hard-headed, we know that. He was stubborn, mean. Sometimes he could get angry. Kind of wild with women. Did Big Walter cheat? And then she says, plenty wrong with him. So, I mean, okay, you know what, though? I appreciate the fact. I mean, we don't know. That's her business, not ours. But it is refreshing that she also points out his foibles, the things that are wrong with him. A lot of people won't do that about people that passed away. They only talk about the good things about that person, not the bad. Let's hear more. But he sure loved his children, always wanted them to have something, to be something. That's where brother gets all these notions, I reckon. So now we're learning why Walter has such big dreams. And again, he should, it's what every American, it's what every person in the world should. He should have big dreams. He should be able to work for them and attain them, at least have a chance at attaining them, a try. Walter, Big Walter, the father, he was big into dreaming, and he would tell Walter about his dreams, which is why Walter is big into dreaming. Big Walter used to say he'd get right wet in the eyes sometimes, lean back his head back with the water standing in his eyes and say, seemed like God didn't seem to give the black man nothing but dreams. But he did give his children to make them dreams seem worthwhile. She smiled. He could talk like that, don't you know? So that's interesting. We just found out that Big Walter went through the same nonsense that Walter had to go through. It was probably worse for him. And he also had dreams. But one thing that where Big Walter took his solace was in his children. Just remember that. He could talk like that, don't you know, Ruth? Yes, he sure could. He was a good man, Mr. Younger. Yes, a fine man, just could never catch up with his dreams, that's all. So this is interesting. Even Mama recognizes that the worst thing for Big Walter, the hardest part about his life, and it actually killed him, she said. I mean, she did say it was losing the baby kind of killed him as well, but it was also the dreams that he couldn't catch up with his dreams. He could never catch up to them. And that was the big negative thing in his life. Mama needs to open her eyes and realize that very same thing is happening to Walter now. And she needs to help him. Now, does that mean she needs to give him her money so that he can waste it on a business or possibly waste it on a business? No, but she needs to recognize his feelings. Let's see if she does. Benita comes in, brushing her hair and looking up to the ceiling where the sound of a vacuum cleaner had started up. What could be so dirty on that woman's rug that she has to vacuum them every single day? Okay, is there something wrong with somebody vacuuming their home every day? Absolutely not. It's kind of nice. It means they're very clean. But the point of her even mentioning it, and the reason why Lorraine Hansberry, the author of this play, has Benita mention it right when she walks in, is to show you what it is like to live in an apartment building, especially this one. Thin walls, small rooms, one window, no bathroom. It stinks, right? Benita has, remember, she's studying to be a doctor. What do you need? You need time to study. You need quiet. Do you think she gets it in this apartment? Oh, I don't think so, especially not if there's all the noise coming from upstairs. So the reason for that is to show us they need to get out. Ironically, Mama just pointed out maybe they will. Maybe they'll get a home. Ruth. I wish certain young women around here who I could name would take inspiration about certain rugs in a certain apartment I could also mention. I think she's insinuating that Benita needs to do more cleaning. Benita shrugging. How much cleaning can a house need, for Christ's sakes? Mama, not liking the Lord's name used thus. Benny. Ruth, just listen to her. Just listen. Benita, oh God. Mama, if you use the Lord's name just one more time. Benita, a bit of a whine. Oh, Mama. Ruth, fresh as salt, this girl. Benita, dryly. Well, if the salt loses its savor, then Mama, now that'll do. I just ain't gonna have you round here reciting the scriptures in vain. You hear me? So, in case you don't understand what's happening here, Mama doesn't like Benita using the word God or saying, before she said for Christ's sake. She doesn't like her blaspheming, using God's name negatively. Now, Benita's a 20-year-old woman. She should be able to do and say what she wants, but this is her mom's house that she is in and living in, and her mom's paying for a medical school, so she does kind of have to respect her mom, but also you should respect somebody else and not hurt their feelings, specifically about their religion. If Benita knows that Mama doesn't want to hear that, then she should respect that and not hurt Mama's feelings. But again, Benita is going through her problems as well. Benita lives in this apartment with everybody. Benita is a medical school student, so she's probably working hard and very stressed. Let's see how this continues. Now that will do. I just ain't going to have you around here reciting the scriptures in vain. You hear me? Benita, how did I manage to get on everybody's wrong side by just walking into a room? Ruth, if you weren't so fresh. Benita, Ruth, I'm 20 years old. Mama, what time you be home from school today? Benita, kind of late. With enthusiasm. Madeline is going to start my guitar lessons today. Mama and Ruth look up, both with the same expression. What kind of lessons? Guitar. Ruth, oh, Father. Mama, how come you done taking it in your mind to learn to play the guitar? Benita, I just want to, that's all. Mama smiling, Lord, child, don't you know what to do with yourself? All right, I just want to stop right there and point out, is there anything wrong with Benita wanting to learn to play the guitar? Of course not. Maybe she's good at it. And I say that to all you, my students, especially while you're young. Now's the time to find out what you're good at, what makes you happy, what you find interesting, what causes you to, I don't know, get a spark in your mind. The way to figure it out is by trying all different things. Try guitar lessons, try horseback riding, try, I don't know, what else is there out there? Try acting, try, I don't know, editing classes, try whatever it is, STEM classes, breakdance classes, whatever. The point is follow your dreams. And sometimes the best way to find out what your dreams are to go and experiment with things. Now, is there anything wrong with Benita doing that? Not at all. Why do Mama and Ruth make fun of her? I think there's a couple of reasons. One, I think they like making fun of each other because they're a fun family. But two, I don't think they understand. Or let me get that differently. I don't think Ruth and Mama have ever been able to go out and try all their dreams. I think Benita is the first one of their family to be able to do that. We know that Walter doesn't get any of his dreams, right? It's Benita who does. So I think they're making fun of her because they're, I don't know if jealous is the right word, because as Mama, she wants her kids to have all their dreams. But they are. Let's watch. How long will it be before you get tired of this now? Like you got tired of that little play acting group you joined last year. Looking at Ruth. And what was it the year before that? Ruth. The horseback riding club for which she bought that $55 riding habit that's been hanging in the closet ever since? Mama to Benita. Why you gotta flit so from one thing to another, baby? Benita sharply. I just want to learn to play the guitar. Is there anything wrong with that? Mama, ain't nobody trying to stop you. I just wonder sometimes why you have to flit so from one thing to another all the time. You ain't never done nothing with all that camera equipment you brought home. I don't flit. I experiment with different forms of expression. Like riding a horse, people have to express themselves one way or another. Mama, what is it you want to express? Benita, angrily, me. Mama and Ruth look at each other and burst into raucous laughter. Don't worry, I don't expect you to understand. All right, snap. Listen to that. That's very important that she just said that. So Mama and Ruth are making fun of her. Not, I don't think, because she tries different things. I think they're making fun of her because she never sticks with anything. She picks one thing, boom, doesn't like it, goes to the next. Boom, doesn't like it, goes to the next. You know what? Some people are like that. They like to try everything. Me, I'm the opposite. When I like something, that's it. That's all I do. For example, I like chocolate ice cream. That's the only ice cream I eat. I'll have vanilla once in a while. But I'm not trying any one of these other 75 things. Look at Doritos, for crying out loud. I eat one kind of Dorito, regular Doritos. You go to the store these days, there's 13, 14, 17 kinds of Doritos. What are you, crazy? I'm sticking with what I like. But some people, and by the way, that's just me, different strokes for different folks. Some people like to try everything. That's Benita. That's her dream, and why can't she have it? But listen to what she just said. She said, don't worry, I don't expect you to understand. I think she's dissing both Mama and Ruth because they don't follow their dreams. Now, the question is, do they have the chance to? And it is not fair to make fun of somebody for not doing what they don't have the chance to do. But let's wait and see. Let's continue. Mama, to change the subject. Who are you going out with tomorrow night? Benita, with displeasure. George Murchison again. Wait, time out. Stop. Time out. I want to ask this. Even Mama's going to ask. But Mama just asked who Benita's going out with, like on a date tomorrow night. And she says, with displeasure, George Murchison again. Like a George Murchison again. Not for nothing. Why would you go out with somebody if you didn't like them? Let's find out. Mama, pleased. Oh, you getting a little sweet on him? Wait, stop. Mama is pleased that she's going out with George Murchison. Interesting. Ruth, you ask me, this child ain't sweet on nobody but herself, under breath. Express herself. They laugh. Benita, oh, I like George all right, Mama. I mean, I like him enough to go out with him and stuff, but Ruth, for devilment. What does and stuff mean? Benita, Mind your own business. Mama, stop picking at her now, Ruth. She chuckles. Then a suspicious sudden look at her daughter as she turns in her chair for emphasis. What does it mean? I think Ruth was insinuating that an end stuff might be like, smoochy, smoochy, kissy, kissy type stuff. And now Mama just understood that and realized, hey, wait a minute. What are you doing with this man? Again, remember, Benita's a 20-year-old woman. So she's a woman, but still, Mama doesn't want to hear anything about that, nor do I. Let's continue. Benita wearily. Oh, I just mean I couldn't ever be so really serious about George. He's so shallow. All right, stop. Benita goes out with a guy, right? Again, so we know she's gone out with him before, but yet she thinks he's shallow. Now, what does shallow mean? We know what shallow means in water, right? There's not a lot of water. What does it mean if a person is shallow? I think that means there's not a lot of them. In other words, they don't really care much about anything but themselves. Or in this case, we're going to find out all he cares about is his money. And Benita doesn't like that about him. So I'm going to ask again, why is she dating somebody that she thinks is shallow? Is it because he has money, because he can take her to nice places and whatnot? Maybe. But what does that say about Ruth? Let's continue. I'm not Ruth, Benita, but let's continue. Oh, I just mean I could never really be serious about George. He's so shallow. Shallow? What do you mean he's shallow? He's rich. Mama, hush, Ruth. I know he's rich. He knows he's rich too. Think about that. So Ruth thinks she should date him just because he's rich. That's actually the definition of shallow. You don't date somebody because they have money. You date somebody because you like them, because he's nice to you or she's nice to you, because they're a nice fit. How about this? Because they make you a better person, not because they make you a wealthier person. But can you see why Ruth and even Mama would want her to date somebody and possibly marry somebody who's rich? Now, I don't think they want her to marry him just because he's rich. And even if she hates him, I think they want her to fall in love with him. And because he's rich, it'd be like, great, you fell in love with a rich guy. But again, is that the only reason why you date somebody? Oh, heck no, it shouldn't even be a reason. But notice what Benita said. I know he's rich. He knows he's rich too. In other words, he's a snob about it. He acts like I'm better than you because I've got money. Let's go on, Ruth. Well, what other qualities a man got to have to satisfy you, little girl? Benita, you wouldn't even begin to understand. Anybody who married Walter could not possibly understand. Oh, snap. Did you hear that? Ruth said, well, what else do you want in him? What else does he have to make you want him? And she goes, what do you know? You married Walter. Now, she didn't just diss her husband. She dissed her own brother, and she just dissed Mama's son. And Mama, outraged, says, what kind of way is that to talk about your brother? And Benita said, brother, it's a flip. Let's face it. Mama, to Ruth, helplessly, what's a flip? Ruth, glad to add kindling. She's saying he's crazy. Benita, not crazy. Brother isn't really crazy yet. He is an elaborate neurotic. Now, elaborate, what does elaborate mean? Elaborate means there's a lot to him, right? But neurotic. If somebody is a neurotic, it means they think too much. They're always in their head. They're constantly thinking. Guess what I've heard in my life? The people who are always thinking are sometimes thought of as being the smartest people, and that's why they think so much, right? I'm not sure if that's true or not. I'm not saying it. But she just basically said Walter's crazy. Guys, gals, she's kind of right. Walter is going crazy. He's not crazy. He's not like stick him in a nut house. He's nuts. He doesn't see people that aren't there. He doesn't hear voices. No. But what is driving Walter crazy? It's happening right now. Say it out loud. People in your house are going to go, why are you talking to yourself? Say it anyway. What's happening to Walter? His what are being deferred. Yes, that's right. His dreams are being deferred, and it's driving him crazy. And look at this. Benita recognizes it. She said, you're married to a crazy man. So the question is, Benita, dude, step back. What's making him crazy? How can you help? Because I don't think she's trying to help. Let's continue. Ruth, glad to add kindling. She's saying he's crazy. Benita, not crazy. Brother isn't really crazy yet. He's an elaborate neurotic. Mama, hush your mouth. That's for George. Well, George looks good. He's got a beautiful car, and he takes me to nice places. And as my sister-in-law says, he is probably the richest boy I will ever get to know, and I even like him sometimes. But if the youngers are sitting around waiting to see if their little Benny's going to tie up the family with the Merchantses, they're wasting their time. So Benita just said, I like him. He's all right. He takes me to nice places. Okay, that's why I hang out with him. But I will never get serious about him, and I will never marry him. Ruth, you mean you wouldn't marry George Murchison if he asked you someday? That pretty rich thing? Honey, I knew you was odd. No, I would not marry him if all I felt for him was what I feel now. Besides, George's family wouldn't really like it. Now, that's an interesting point right there. And she said, I wouldn't marry him if all I felt for him was what I feel now. In other words, she doesn't love him. And she's right. You do not marry somebody because they have money if you don't love them. Heck, whatever. We talked about that enough. Let's continue. Look what she said. Besides, George's family wouldn't really like it. Why do you think George's rich family wouldn't like George marrying Benita? Because she's poor. Now, interestingly enough, she's about to be a doctor, so she's not going to be poor anymore. But I still don't think they would want her to marry him because it's not about her. It's about her what? Her family. And her family is poor. And the Murchisons would not want to link their family with another poor family. Let's watch. Mama. Why not? Benita. Oh, Mama. The Murchisons are honest to God, real, faux, rich, colored people. And the only people in the world who are more snobbish than rich white people are rich colored people. I thought everybody knew that. I've met Miss Murchison. She's a scene. You must not dislike people because they're well off, honey. Why not? It makes just as much sense as disliking people because they're poor, and lots of people do that. Ruth, a wisdom of the ages manner to Mama. Well, she'll get over some of this. Get over it. What are you talking about, Ruth? Listen, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm not worried about who I'm going to marry yet, if I ever get married. Interestingly enough, I don't think Mama is going to like her saying if she ever gets married. I think Mama thinks she has to get married and raise a family, that's part of being, that's what you need to do in your life. But Benita doesn't see it that way. And she's certainly not going to marry a guy just because he has money. I respect her for that. I'm not sure if I respect the fact that she dates somebody she doesn't like, but you know what? She meets other people. She gets to go to places she'd never get to go before, I can't say Broadway because they're in Chicago, but nice plays and nice dinners and whatnot. But at least she wouldn't, sell herself out in the form of marrying him just for his money. That does say something about her. And the fact that she wants to become a doctor before she wants to do anything else. That's also pretty gosh darn awesome. We are going to stop there. That is the end of assignment number 2. Thank you very much. Great job today, everybody.